So it happened again. Despite having COVID in September 2020, rushing out to make sure I could get vaccinated as soon as they were available, or even before they were available, being double vax, having a booster, I got COVID again. I have a friend. Look at that guy. So this video is probably going to be all over the place, admittedly, and there are going to be people that are probably upset from both sides of this whole COVID argument, because virtually everything lately can boil down to some type of political argument, or we're sitting on a fence of one way or the other when it even comes to COVID. But I'm going to tell you my story here, and inevitably I'm sure I'm going to end up pissing off someone. And so I had the OG strain of COVID. And hey, by the way, that experience sucked. So everybody that wants to tell you that like COVID was no big thing, then after having COVID, still wore a mask, still did the social distancing thing, and I went out and I got the vaccine. And I was super hyper concerned about getting the vaccine because of the fact that when I got COVID the first time, I felt really, really awful that I had been mixing with larger groups of people because it was heading into haunt season in 2020. I caught flack in too many videos where people are seeing us wear masks and like stupid idiots, and why are you doing that, and this is a hoax, and everything under the sun. When you're around older people, like my mom, my mother-in-law, other people, or immune-compromised people, like I have friends that, unbelievably, the first time that I was diagnosed with COVID, I had been out that prior weekend with a friend that was immune compromised as well, and I nearly shit myself when I found out that I had COVID to begin with. The last thing I would want is to potentially injure or kill somebody because of my negligence. So when vaccines were first being made available, we actually went out and we shopped for leftovers at the end of the night. If you guys don't know what that is, the original batches of COVID vaccine, they had to be refrigerated at a certain level. If the distribution places had leftovers at the end of the night, they would either destroy them or give them out to people that were waiting for them. So we were double vaccinated by the end of March. Way ahead of the curve. Come May, AEW, Daly's Place in Jacksonville, totally no masks, out in the crowd, having a party. The world is fantastic, we're back to normal. And then, Delta. Haunt season 2021, you start to see people are getting really sick from COVID, and you start to find out who's vaccinated and who's not vaccinated, and what the difference may be. We had run into a friend at Halloween Horror Nights that was not vaccinated and ended up in the ICU, and lived with an elderly member of their family, and they ended up in the ICU, and just heart sinks. And you start to think, like, am I going to end up getting sick? And you see us with masks in those videos, in all of the haunt videos, and more comments about you guys are idiots for falling for this stupidity, etc., while my friend and his relative are carrying around oxygen tanks. But on the other hand, of course, the government is assuring us that these are breakthrough cases and they're rare if you are vaccinated. The messaging delivered for the first batch of vaccines was a mess. And if I want to call things down the middle, we had the CDC and the government telling you if you're vaccinated, you don't have a shot of getting COVID. And these are breakthrough cases all the way up through Delta. And they're extremely rare, but precautions taken nonetheless. And then fast forward to the winter of 2021. We got our booster as soon as they were available. I'd be honest, I'll still keep getting a booster whenever they're available also, and continue to get made fun of for wearing masks everywhere that we go. This time around, it's Omicron. But you figure, I've had COVID, I'm vaxxed, ×2, I'm boosted. What are the chances of getting sick? We continue to wear a mask in crowded settings, and I can tell you through holidays like Thanksgiving, we were with my in-laws, and in crowded situations, and you see people like hacking their brains out and things around you when you're in public settings, you're kind of always thinking, you know, could something happen, but you get build more confidence as you're not getting sick. New Year's Eve, the best I could tell, you know, when we went out to the parks, wear a mask in the crowded settings until you are in a restaurant or a bar, like we went to bars and we went to the theme parks. And this is where, you know, the saying can be, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But literally the Monday after New Year's, you end up not feeling well and popping positive. So at this point I know this is where things would get probably heated comments in the video, but I credit having the vax and being boosted for the fact that testing positive for Omicron was basically a stuffy head, you know, congestion, some aches and pains, and a light cough for a couple days, and then nothing. So essentially just quarantining away from Mary. She was negative, and she was negative in September of 2020 when I was sick as well. And just, you know, kind of biding your time until you get a negative test. So, you know, the last couple days I tested negative and clear of the virus at this point. But I will say again, I think, and you know, this could be me soapboxing, or you know, people can take it for what it is. I think if I didn't have the vaccine or the booster, I potentially would be much sicker. I can't say for sure, because I was in the situation where I was sick before and also had the vaccine, so no real issues to speak of. I continued to work throughout the illness, not in person, remotely, while I saw other people that I work with also still working remotely. So I know this is the point of the video where people are going to say like there's a tracking device in it, or you get your tinfoil hat on, or you know, you're going to end up having a stroke, or we're killing people by having the vaccine. And I don't think that's true myself. What I would say, you know, because I want to make sure I'm telling both sides of the story, I am disappointed in the fact of the messaging up to this point, where everybody is being told, like, you know, if you're vaccinated, you're basically good to go, at least initially, as far as not getting sick. And I just think at this point, whether it's... This guy just scared the shit out of me. I do think at this point this is going to be one of those things that we just need to live with, and you're going to have to calculate your risks. I mean, we're all about getting back to doing things as much as normal as possible, but it's very difficult when we're essentially just ignoring the fact that this exists at this point, and you know, proceeding as normal where everything is open as normal. And I'm not saying things should close down, but the risk is that people are going to get sick, and I mitigated the severity of the illness by taking precautions ahead of time, and I'm sure you'll see in continued videos that we'll continue to be safe and wear a mask and things like that. I mean, even at Ray J Stadium, where we sit, the people that sit directly next to me, one of them is a nurse and works with patients all day that are sick, but sits there without a mask on. So I'm not wearing it for me. At this point, I know I'm not going to get ill from this variant again, at least I would think. But I wouldn't want somebody else to get sick on my behalf. So when I see things today, like the entire universe seems to be at Epcot, online for a popcorn bucket for Figment, and you think everybody is back to back or face to face, and you have not been sick yet, I can only imagine how many people are going to get sick. Studies in Florida have shown that they expect at least 70 to 80% of all Floridians to have Omicron by the end of this peak cycle, which should end in another 2 weeks. I know they've tested the wastewater in Altamont Springs already and shown that at least 70% of the residents in that city are currently sick. Even if the virus is not as severe as prior iterations, why would you want to get sick? So, like I said, I knew this was going to be a long rambling video and maybe not even coherent or making enough sense. Or maybe the message resonates because I think everybody is incredibly frustrated with messaging and leadership, and just the fact that we're 2 years into this thing, going on year 3. When is it going to stop? I am still forever amazed that an illness, a pandemic, has literally become so divisive or political in nature, instead of just focusing on the fact of how do we eradicate this. And it's not people taking a vaccine. If more people take a vaccine, it's not going to stop other people from getting sick. Because you could see this time around that, even with me, you were sick, you're double vax, you're boosted, you're still getting sick. The spread is still going to happen. But instead of the news highlighting one side of an argument versus another, it would be great to hear about some type of a long-term solution, or even what caused this to begin with. What about that? That just got swept under the rug altogether. And if you find out what caused it, can't you find out what could resolve it? And I hope by saying that it doesn't unleash a ton of negative comments or hatred in the community that we've built up here. I gotta be honest, every time that we put up one of these videos, we end up not monetizing it, etc. And when you don't monetize, for those that don't know how the YouTube algorithm works, they kind of not promote so many bugs. The other videos that you may have that are monetized, so we end up just falling further down in the search. And I suppose I could go to Epcot and make a video about how awesome the painting event is, and in turn, Figment buckets. But I'd rather just connect to you and give you a little insight as to what I've been going through the last couple of weeks. But on that note, I'm feeling great. I feel great today. I feel great. First time I had COVID, had long hauler symptoms where I couldn't breathe for months. That doesn't seem to be the case this time. But on that note, I'm going to get out of here. So thanks a lot for coming along. Thank you very much for all of your likes, comments, and subscriptions. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Stay safe out there. See you guys.